Hey everybody, welcome to Always Bored, Never Boring. Today we're going to have a little bit of a blast from the past, and we're going to take a look at my unpunched copy of Dungeons & Dragons: The Fantasy Adventure board game. Now, as I understand it, this is something of a grail game in America. I think it's very, very hard to come by. But in the UK especially, and probably other areas in Europe, you can find them anywhere. I had a copy of this, and I got rid of it, and then years later I wanted another copy of it, so I got a copy on eBay for a couple of quid. When it turned up, it was hideously water damaged. The seller had neglected to mention that, and when I pursued the point, they said, well, we didn't think it really mattered because it's still playable and we didn't think anybody would want to collect it. So eventually I got rid of that, and I purchased a little while back another copy which is unpunched, and this is the copy you see before you. And again, I think I paid about £5 for it. It's considerably more expensive in other areas, but yeah, in the UK, or I don't know if it is still easy to find. I mean, I've had this in the cupboard now for over a year, possibly 2 years. Yeah, it was incredibly easy to find, and I'm assuming nothing much has changed. Check out the back of the box. This is a game from 2003, and it is a typical dungeon crawly adventure game, skewed, I guess, towards the younger market, suitable for ages 10 and up, it says on the box. And it has that classic people gathered round the table playing the game look that was once upon a time popular on the back of board game boxes. Don't see it so much these days. People looking really in character. What have they got on that card? But yeah, so yeah, let's have a quick look. Now, like I say, this is an unpunched copy because since I purchased this version, I haven't played it. But I thought it was about time that I put it on film, and then I might do a little playthrough of it, because I'm looking for something to do a playthrough of at the moment. Advertising leaflets, they're not very exciting. Yeah, this is kind of in the style of Hero Quest, really. So you get a player's guide to read, and then you get a Dungeon Master guide. So I'm not going to show you anything in that one, because that's got all of the map layouts and all the secrets and where the traps are positioned and where the monsters come from and things like that. But yeah, it's for 4 adventurers. There's always 4 adventurers. It's one of those games that doesn't scale in that regard. So no matter how many people you've got playing the game, sorry for the glare, by the way. No matter how many people you've got playing the game, there's always 4 heroes, and then one player plays the Dungeon Master, who is in control of all the monsters and things and has a map. And yeah, it's a pretty straightforward game. It's got some interesting concepts. So there's 4 heroes. We'll take a look at the miniatures in a moment, but we've got Regdar, the human fighter. We've got Lida, the halfling rogue. We've got Jozan, the cleric. And we've got Miali, the elven wizard. It's very typical Dungeons and Dragons archetypes there, really, isn't it? It's your usual party composition, really. Bit of everything, bit of magic, bit of healing, bit of brute force, and a bit of sneaky cunning. So yeah, and that's why you always have to have 4 adventurers. The game is scaled around having all those different skills at your disposal. And it's a very simple game. Yeah, the adventurers act. They've got a certain number of actions they've got access to. They can move, they can open a door, they can do combat with a weapon or a spell, they can open a chest, or they can change an item around. And then certain characters have special abilities like casting spells, searching for traps, disabling traps, turning undead, healing and sneaking. You get 2 actions on the turn, and you can do 2 different things. When you open a door, it's quite an interesting initiative system. Each time the heroes open a door, there's 5 initiative cards, and you shuffle them up, and you deal 1 to each player. And that will be the order that the heroes and the Dungeon Master will play in for the game until the next door is opened, at which point you shuffle up the initiative cards and divvy them up again. So it's kind of like a there's a constant mixing up of the order of play, which is quite fun. And yeah, it's pretty basic. I mean, there's you know, you attack by rolling dice that have swords on. We'll have a look at those in a moment. And then there's special weapons that you can find that will offer you different options, like this spell. You can attack in close combat or in ranged, and you roll those dice. You roll to see how many swords you get, and then characters and heroes will have an armor class, which is a flat value. You reduce the number of swords you've rolled by that value, and the total is the number of wounds that get through. Heroes have a hit point tracker. Monsters, you put tokens on their cards, and that's it really. You move around the board, you fight, the monsters fight back. Occasionally you will stand on a trap. The games master has a map that says where traps are. You have the ability to search for traps. There's a special search dice that allows you to reveal one or two of the nearest traps, depending on how you roll. And then there's a special dice for disabling traps, which either allows you to disable the trap or blows you up. And then there's also a special dice for turning undead. So there's special dice for everything. But it is a very, very simple game set. It's a rule set. It's a very pick up and play. You can play it if you're a parent and you're looking for a good intro to dungeon crawling for younger children. I think this is a really good one because it's very intuitive. It's very straightforward, and also it looks lovely because as you can see, my copy is unpunched, but you get 3D terrain. Like you can see that you punch out the two tree pieces and they slot together to form a three-dimensional tree, and the same thing with these pillars here. And it all looks really nice. Right, I've got two sheets here, which are the hero characters. So you've got the Elven Wizard. One of the other things to note is that the character sheets handle different levels. It goes from level 1 to level 3. So when you start an adventure, you look in the adventure book and it will tell you what level you are. And so if it's a level 1 mission, you will have 5 hit points, and you know you've got no spell points down here. And then at level 2 you get extra hit points. Level 3 you get extra hit points again. And also you get different starting equipment depending on your level. So as you progress up through the levels, you will have better starting equipment. And you can play all of the missions. There's I think it's 11 missions, I think. I'll double check. I will double check off camera so you don't actually see in the book. 11. There's 11 missions. I was right. I shouldn't have second guessed myself. There are 11 missions, and you can play them in a campaign where you get to carry over your equipment to the next mission and things like that. But if you die, you sort of get reset to your current level and get your starting equipment based on that level again. So yeah, we've got the wizard, we've got a human fighter who's quite a simple character. He's just punchy. So they have special abilities. I see. Sorry, I'd forgotten a rule. And then you've got the sneaky halfling rogue, who's got special actions like sneaking and searching for traps, and the human cleric, who can turn undead and heal. Turn undead is sort of a classic Dungeons and Dragons thing. In this game, it's slightly simplified. All it does is you roll the dice, and if you beat the undead value of the enemy that you're turning, they miss a turn, and that's it. That's all that happens. Tokens for treasure and traps. These are the trap tokens, so they only get placed down once they've been discovered. Otherwise, they appear when you step on them. I don't know if I can get these in shot very easily without that glare off that light. But yeah, there's a lot of... I've dropped that one. So I am all over the place today. I do apologise. I'm trying to be professional and failing abysmally. Yeah, lots of double-sided tiles, including one that's on the floor. The tiles you use, you see they're divided into rooms, and then there's actually door tiles that you position. So the tiles actually give more variety than even first appears, because not all of these rooms will have doors. I should just go back to bed, shouldn't I? Not all of these rooms will have doors, and so you can use the same tiles and get different layouts, which is cool. Some of them are outside, which is nice. You don't often get outside locations in dungeon crawlers. I mean, you do get them, but it's usually more common to see inside locations. But see, a tile like that is 4 rooms, and where doors are and things like that will completely change how that works. And like I say, the dungeon master has a map, so he will have a map of how it is, and will actually lay out all the tiles at the start of the game, so you kind of have a basic idea of how big your map is and where things are, but you know, you don't get to see everything, and things inside rooms only get revealed when you open the doors. Here are the dice, and I should point out what I really like in this. They've put little recessed insets for all of the dice and the cards. So yeah, there's lots of different coloured dice, which are pretty. I think yellow is the weakest dice. You can see it's got 2 blank faces, and then it can only score a maximum of 1 sword. And then you have orange, which has no blank faces and a couple of 2s, so you can score a potential of 2 on those. And then you've got red, which it goes up to 3, but it still has a blank, so potential to do more damage, but also potential for a fluff. And then you've got purple, which has got 2s and 3s on every single face, and that's your badass dice. You want to be rolling that dice as much as possible, because you're going to bring the hurt. So and yeah, obviously as you start out, you're going to be rolling mainly yellows and oranges, occasionally red, which for a kind of like big potential attack with a chance to fluff, and eventually you sort of start rolling the purple dice and things get cool. And then you've got these other dice. It's a shame these aren't all different colours. This is your turn undead dice. So every undead monster has got a skull value up to 3. And so you roll this dice, and if you roll at least the number of skulls that's on the monster card, then you have turned them and they miss a turn. And the whole storyline of this game is that there's a great big powerful undead lich. And even he can be turned, but he has 3 skulls, so it's not very common to happen. And then you've got the other. This is a special dice. Some weapons have a special ability that triggers if you roll the star. And then we have the search dice and the disarm traps dice. So those are pretty cool. Pretty neat stuff. Production values on this game are awesome. There's a big wedge of cards. I don't want to go through all of them, because this video is already quite long. And I haven't got to the miniatures yet. But I'll just give you a quick look at some of them. Right. Oh, wrapped and wrapped. So this is an item. There's different types. There's different types of items that you can get, and each character is allowed a certain number. They've got a backpack that they can store items in, and then they're allowed a certain number of each other item. Like it might say maximum 2 weapons and things like that. So all of the characters are quite different. Alright, there's a monster, there's a bugbear. Really nice artwork. So bugbears can move 4, they have 7 hit points, and they've got an armor class of 2, so if you're rolling like 5 swords, you minus 2, they take 3 wounds, so they get reduced to 4, so it's going to take, you know, a couple of attacks to take down a bugbear. They generally low damage output, but they do have that 1 red dice which has the potential to put out a lot of swords or fluff. So, you know, they're strong, they stick around on the board. This is the Lich. It's an insane undead spellcaster who feasts on destruction. Ogres. Ogres have some range. The Carrion Crawler. Carrion Crawler rolls the special dice when attacking, and if it rolls a star, it has a paralysis ability and the hero will miss its next turn. Never good. Wraiths. Ignore the armor class of heroes. Well, what else have we got in here? There's a card. This is quite cool because there is actually a card for each model that you can potentially have on the board. So it says Goblin 1, Goblin 2, Goblin 3, and that's because you can have multiple goblins on the board at once. It doesn't just give you one card to cover all of your goblins, and that means you can track your damage per goblin on the card, so the wound tokens don't go onto the board. Keeps the board nice and clear, and that's good. And gnolls, love a gnoll. Gnolls are good. And trolls, classic Dungeons and Dragons droopy nose troll. Regenerates 1 hit point each turn it is still alive, and has 10 hit points to start with. What else we got? Whites, and here we go. You can see there's a skull value on the white there of 3, and ooze, blobby oozes, and skeletons. See, skeletons have an undead value of 1. Potentially high damage output for skeletons. So there we go. So those are the monsters, or the cards for the monsters. Wrapped within wrapping. That's just crazy. All kinds of other stuff here. Character reference cards, which sort of list their special abilities. Dungeon Master stuff to remind you. This is an initiative cards, they're just numbered. And then you got weapons. I'm not going to show you all the weapons because I think spoilers, it's quite nice to find this sort of stuff out for yourself when you're playing a dungeon crawler. But here's the Crossbow of Faith. So it's a ranged weapon rolling two yellow dice, and it's got the star icon, which means you can roll a star dice, and if you roll a star you get 1 spell point back. Awesome. And double-handed broadsword, classic. So there's all sorts of stuff. Blade of the Banished Kings. You're only rolling 1 dice, but if you roll the star symbol, you ignore armor class, which is fantastic. And then sometimes you can choose. This is interesting. This is another interesting mechanic. There's a bone cleaver. Standard attacks 1 yellow, 1 orange. But you can do a power attack. If you choose to do a power attack, you roll red dice as well, but you also roll the star dice. And in this case, if you roll the star icon, something bad will happen. You actually lose the weapon. So it's a really nice mechanism where you can go, okay, I'll do that. I'll risk it for an extra power attack, but then you roll that dice, and if it goes wrong, then you lose. You lose your weapon, and you can't use it again, which is cool. So lots of different items, lots of different things. Here's an example of a spell. Big B's Clenched Fist. Yeah, cool. So that's it. That's just a quick look. Like I said, I don't want to go through all of the cards. I think one of the fun things about Dungeon Crawler is finding things out for yourself and learning what the dungeon has to offer. Plus the fact, there's a big bag of miniatures. And miniatures are cool. I just want to show you this again, by the way, in the bottom of the tray. the moulded skulls and stuff. This is where you will dump all your monsters when you're not playing the game. in the pit. So it's a sealed bag. Sealed bags of bags. I have some monkey scissors. Exciting stuff. Heroes. Golly, this is a long video. I try and keep my unboxing videos, excuse me while I rip into this plastic. I try to keep my unboxing videos relatively short, but it never works out that way. I talk too much. Okay, so this is the fighter character. Nice chunky miniatures. They have a really, I mean, they're not like massively detailed. They're not as nice as like the Hero Quest miniatures, but they have this really nice chunky aesthetic, which I really do like. This is Jozan the Cleric. I'm going to look at these, show you these really quickly. If you want to take a closer look at them, you might have to just pause the video for a second because I am aware of the time. So that was the rogue, and this is the wizard. Probably the worst miniature, but like I say, it has a certain charm to it. I'm not going to try and rip this bag open. Gonna use my monkeys. Now, you will notice that the heroes were all sort of that purple colour. This bag has the undead miniatures. These are some of my favourites. We got skeleton. Check it out. Numbered on the back. And if we find another skeleton, you can see number 2, number 3, and that is because they have their own cards, and the cards are numbered too. So they've really thought about it with this game. It is just a beautiful production. It's everything about it is just really nicely thought out, really clever. And I think there's a reason why it's such a sought after game, and why people want to have it, because I just think it's a very special game. This is a white. Hello, how you doing? I want to put like a little picket fence or something in front of him. Little lawnmower coming out of his hand. Oh yeah, just mowing the lawn. You know what it's like. What else we got? What else have we got? This is the Wraith. This is the Wraith. Come back to Mordor. We will take you. And again, numbered on the back. Again, might not be able to see that. That's number 2. So yeah, it's all good stuff. So we've got a couple of those. And then we have the Lich. Meow! What's he doing with his hand there? Cool, good stuff. So those are the undead enemies. And then we have the brown enemies. Right. Got some cool stuff in here. The gnolls. I do like a nice gnoll. And these ones are really nicely done. And again, numbered on the back. That's a gnoll, basically like a little hyena guy. The bugbear, just a really lovely chunky figure. It's really thick, really chunky. You know, this is the kind of game that end up on Kickstarter these days. Yeah, really nice figure of a bugbear. Again, you know, they're not as massively detailed as some other board games, and sort of not as detailed as like games from like Monolith or whatever that you get nowadays. But you know, this is 2003, and they have a chunky charm to them that I really like. quite big as well. I mean, if you compare that over to that hyena. And yeah, that's it. You get quite a handful of those guys. And then we've got the green guys, and this is it. Take a quick look at the green guys, and we will finish it off there. Oh, you will notice there are no blob miniatures. The blobs are actually just cardboard tokens, which is probably the only thing that I can say is a disappointment about this game. And considering how many other great things you get in the box, and it is, you know, it's a really nice box of stuff. The miniatures are nice, the boards are nice, but it's also a really nice rule set. It's got a nice simple way of playing, really accessible, lots of different items to find and traps that happen, and it's really easy to expand as well. It's very much like Hero Quest in that regard. The Dungeon Master book has some blank maps in the back that you can photocopy and just make your own adventures, and it's very easy to do. I mean, all you need to do is draw a couple of maps out and you're making your own adventures, and it's really, really good fun. Simple, I don't want to say elegant, because, you know, but it is. It's a very streamlined, simple rule set for fun. It's a goblin. What other green creatures do we have? We have the trolls. Oh yeah, it's the guy on the other side of the fence to the white, isn't it? Yeah, mow me lawn too. Big, tall, lanky troll. I've never been a massive fan of the Dungeons and Dragons looking troll things going on there. I like Games Workshop trolls, or Troggoths as they are now. And then there's the Carrion Crawler, which is just a brilliant enemy and a brilliant miniature. Look at that. Hi, how you doing? It's like it's trying to do a not threatening smile. Nah, it's fine. Come on in. Meet the missus. Have a cup of tea. Everything'll be fine. Right. That's it. That's your lot. That's everything. And I think I've spoken for long enough. Yeah. Dungeons and Dragons is a fancy adventure board game. Really glad to have a copy. And I think I might do a little playthrough, maybe of just like the first mission or something. It's difficult to do solo because obviously it requires a dungeon master with a knowledge of the map, but I might just do like a little, this is how it all goes together. I haven't decided yet. Would you like to see that? Let me know in the comments. And until the next time, I will say bye-bye. Bye everyone. Bye-bye.